When did you start confusing faith with blind submission? At what point did love become a burden that distances you from God instead of bringing you closer? There's a thin and dangerous line between living a spiritual relationship and being captured by a narcissist who uses faith as a chain. And the scariest thing about all this is that often you don't even realize what's happening because you're convinced you're obeying divine will. The spiritual narcissist is one of the most dangerous because they don't need to raise their voice. They use God's name to seal their manipulations. They use verses out of context as justification for control, jealousy, and silencing. They present themselves as someone anointed, chosen, a spiritual authority. But behind this facade lies only an insatiable desire for domination. And when you question them, they accuse you of spiritual rebellion. When you suffer, they say it's a lack of faith. When you sense something is wrong, they claim it's the devil trying to keep you from blessing. It's at this point that faith, which should be freedom, becomes a prison. And not just any prison, a prison with an emotional lock and a divine seal. You begin to remain silent for fear of displeasing God. You tolerate abuse because you believe it's your cross. You pray, fast, seek answers, and nothing changes because God was never the problem. The problem is that you're using spirituality to try to heal a bond built on manipulation. The spiritual narcissist knows exactly what to say to appear enlightened. He talks about humility while demanding blind obedience. He talks about unconditional love while destroying your self-esteem. He talks about purpose while distancing you from yours. Everything is about him, but with the language of we. And every time you try to walk away, he throws out phrases like, "You're breaking what God has united," or "The enemy wants to destroy our mission." These phrases become walls that prevent you from seeing that the only mission happening there is the mission to erase you. There's something even crueler in this dynamic. The spiritual narcissist often approaches you when you're at a vulnerable moment of faith. He presents himself as an answer to prayer, as guidance, as a miracle. He decorates the trap with biblical language. Everything seems like a divine sign. And when the relationship begins, he mixes emotion with spirituality so intensely that you can no longer separate where his voice ends and God's begins. And this is where the abuse intensifies, because now, in addition to suffering, you blame yourself for suffering. You think your pain is proof that you haven't yet reached spiritual maturity. You believe you need to submit more, pray more, be more silent. And all the while, the narcissist feeds on your silence. He grows stronger in your surrender. He grows in your oblivion. Every time you choose to endure in the name of faith, he interprets it as permission. But the gospel is not that. Christ never asked you to be complicit in your own suffering. He healed, freed, confronted. He gave of himself, yes, but he never allowed anyone to be destroyed because of another. True love builds. It doesn't imprison. And any relationship that distances you from your essence, your peace, and your true connection with God is not sacred. It's manipulation under the veneer of holiness. The truth is, you no longer need external revelations. Pain has already revealed everything to you. The Holy Spirit is not an accomplice to abusers. And when you realize that those who use God's name are, in fact, usurping your soul, you begin to understand what true liberation is. It's when you rise up, not in rebellion, but in awareness, when you decide that your faith will no longer be used as a tool of domination, when you understand that God called you to live, not to survive inside an emotional cell decorated with verses. It's at that point that something changes. Pain stops being a sign of failure and becomes a warning. You begin to read the Bible with new eyes. Texts you once used against yourself now become swords. You see how, even in the scriptures, there were tyrannical kings, false prophets, wolves in sheep's clothing. And understand that what you're experiencing isn't a divine test. It's a trap built by someone who knows the language of faith well, but doesn't carry its spirit. Your soul wasn't created to be caged by pretty words. Your light can't be chained in the name of a relationship that steals your peace. God is freedom, and any voice that uses his name to imprison you doesn't come from him. The silence you carry isn't holiness, it's fear. And fear has no part in true love. The first step out of this isn't confronting the narcissist. It's confronting the lie you've been led to believe, that you need to nullify yourself to be spiritual. A true relationship with God doesn't bring you to your knees before a man. It lifts you up before life. And if today, upon hearing this, something inside you trembled, it's because the truth began to break the cycle. You were not called to live chained to anyone, neither emotionally nor spiritually. The faith that liberates is the same faith that allows you to say, "This is not of God." Because God doesn't want you silenced, controlled, or destroyed. He wants you whole. And you will only be whole when you stop confusing obedience with emotional slavery. It's not just bad luck. It's not coincidence. It's not karma or fate either. There's a deep, silent, and often forgotten reason behind the constant attraction we have to narcissists, and that reason isn't in the other person, it's within us. Before we point the finger at those who manipulate us, we need to ask the harder question: why do we accept so little? What inside us believes deserves so much less? The truth is that every bond with a narcissist begins with an internal breach, an absence, a need that has never been addressed. It could have been childhood abandonment, unrequited love, emotionally cold parents, or even spiritual trauma that distorted the way we view love. When we grow up with this open wound, we begin to confuse attention with affection, intensity with love, control with care. And the narcissist, like an emotional radar, detects this in seconds. They sense it in your gaze, in the way you listen, in the way you smile, trying to please. They see your need for acceptance as a wide-open door. And they go all in, offering exactly what you've never had: presence, affirmation, validation. But none of it is real. It's a game, an emotional theater staged to capture your pain and make it the foundation of the relationship. And you, unknowingly, respond. Because the mind seeks what is familiar, even if it is destructive. Perhaps you grew up hearing that you needed to deserve love, that you needed to behave, be silent, sacrifice yourself. And this belief grew stronger until it became an emotional filter. Now, even unconsciously, you reach out to people who demand a lot and offer little, because something inside you still believes that if you give enough of yourself, you will finally be recognized. This is the invisible root of the cycle, and when this dynamic takes hold, it repeats itself, once, twice, 10 times, with different names, different faces, different promises, but the same pattern. You start relationships feeling seen, end them feeling empty. You start hopeful, end them exhausted, and with each new disappointment, your self-esteem weakens even further, making you easier prey for the next narcissist. It's a wound that attracts emotional predators like blood attracts sharks. But there's something even deeper, the concept of the wounded inner God. Your image of God is often tainted by the authority figures who have shaped your life. If you had absent parents, you might see God as someone who only shows up when he wants to. If you had overly demanding parents, you might believe God only loves you when you behave perfectly. If you were punished for expressing emotions, you might think God rejects your vulnerability, and that's why you accept crumbs, because your belief system is programmed to accept conditional love as normal. This wounded inner God is not the real God. It's a projection created by your pain. It's a shadow of what you've experienced, not the light of what you deserve to live. And until this image is restored, you'll continue to seek confirmation of your worth in flawed people. You'll continue trying to prove yourself worthy, even at the cost of your emotional, spiritual, and physical health. You'll keep saying yes to relationships that slowly kill you because you don't believe you deserve more. But you do. And that's why this moment is so important. Because it's not about changing the other person. It's about healing what inside you allows the other person to destroy you. It's about looking at yourself with sincerity, with compassion, with courage. Identifying the lies you've been told, the voids you tried to fill with the wrong people, the wounds you covered with prayers but never truly healed. Because spirituality isn't about hiding pain with verses. It's about having the courage to take that pain to God and let Him rebuild you from scratch. Attraction to narcissists is a symptom. The diagnosis lies deeper. It's in your level of worthiness, your sense of identity, your self-love. Until these are reconfigured, the cycle repeats itself. But when you reconnect with your essence, when you stop begging for love and start living as someone who is already loved, everything changes. Because the narcissist no longer finds loopholes. He knocks but doesn't enter. Because now what lives within you is presence, it's light, it's discernment. And discernment isn't distrust, it's protection. It's looking at someone who seems perfect and asking yourself, is this connection healthy or just a repetition of what hurt me? It's recognizing the first signs, manipulation disguised as affection, imposition disguised as zeal, conditional love dressed up as care, and saying no, saying enough, saying enough. You no longer need anyone to save you, because what needed saving wasn't you. It was the wounded child who still believed they would only be loved if they sacrificed themselves. Now you can grow. You can become stronger. You can love consciously. You can receive love without losing yourself in it. Because the one who heals the wounded inner God is the real God, the one who knows you, sees you, and never demanded your destruction to love you. There comes a moment when everything falls apart. An instant when your eyes open, and what you called love reveals itself for what it always was, an emotional prison disguised as paradise. It's not a gentle awakening, nor does it come with peace or immediate relief. It's like waking from a dream and realizing that, all along, what you called home was actually a captivity where your soul was silently imprisoned. And the hardest part of all is admitting that you yourself helped build this altar. You nourished it with hope, protected it with faith, justified it with love. But now it must fall. Breaking up with a narcissist is, above all, breaking the illusion. And there is no greater pain than shattering your own fantasy. Because for so long, you believed that person was your answer, your cure, your mission. You convinced yourself that you had to fight harder, love more, endure more. You became a soldier in a war that was never yours, fighting for someone who was never truly by your side. When you realize this, something inside you screams. It screams with anger, shame, regret, but above all, it screams for liberation. The narcissist, realizing they're losing control, changes their mask. They try to play the victim. They accuse you of being cold, ungrateful, rebellious. They distort facts, create narratives, implicate others. They use everything they know about you against you, because now they're fighting for the survival of the throne they've built within your life. But it no longer works as it once did, because now something within you has awakened. You begin to see patterns that previously went unnoticed. Phrases that once hurt now revolt you. Silences that once caused guilt now give you strength. This transition is violent, not physically, but spiritually and emotionally. Because it's not just about ending a relationship, it's about deconstructing everything you believed about love, loyalty, and worthiness. It's like dismantling a castle, stone by stone, with your bare hands. It hurts, But each falling stone reveals a piece of you that was hidden, forgotten, stifled. Spirituality begins to restore itself in this process. Not as doctrine, not as rule, but as presence. You realize that God was never at that altar you raised to the other. He was beside you, silently, waiting for you to decide that you would no longer sacrifice yourself in the name of a love that hurts, because true love does not demand its destruction as proof. God is not pleased with blind suffering. He reveals himself in the love that liberates, that heals, that edifies, and then comes the decision, the hardest of all, the decision to break up, not with anger, not with revenge, but with awareness. You understand that you're not losing anything, you're getting everything back. Every part of you that was given away in exchange for crumbs begins to return. Your voice returns. Your faith returns. Your identity returns, strong, firm, clean. And the narcissist, realizing this, attempts the ultimate act. He reappears with promises, with tears, with demands for change. But now you no longer believe. Because you've understood that promises don't sustain respect, nor do tears heal open wounds with constancy. You look at him, and you're no longer afraid. You no longer feel the obligation to fix things, nor the guilt of leaving. What you feel is lightness, the lightness of someone who no longer needs to carry the weight of maintaining an unhealthy bond because of faith, guilt, or flawed hope. You free yourself, and this liberation has no fireworks, no applause. It has silence, a new silence. A silence that doesn't suffocate but embraces, that doesn't condemn but heals. This is the fall of the idol, the destruction of the throne where you place someone who never deserved to be above you, someone who used your love to build a cell and convince you it was a temple. But now the true temple is you, and the altar is clean, and in it only that which comes from God can dwell: peace, truth, respect. Breaking the cycle is recognizing that you were trapped but are no longer. It is emerging from the darkness with your soul in pieces, but with your eyes open. And those eyes will never be deceived in the same way again. Because those who know the pain of emotional imprisonment become guardians of their own freedom. And those who know the taste of liberation refuse to return to serving a false god disguised as love. After all, what remains is silence, but not the silence that oppresses, that suffocates, that makes you doubt yourself. It is the silence of the soul that finally finds peace after war, the silence of those who have stopped screaming to be heard by those who never wanted to listen, the silence of those who have understood that true love does not shout, does not demand, does not manipulate. It guides with respect, cares with truth, and liberates with ease. You are not the pain you suffered. You are the one who survived it. You are not the reflection of the narcissist's distorted gaze. You are the image of the Creator, and nothing and no one has the right to dim your light to fit into a relationship that only exists at the cost of your destruction. This journey was not about assigning blame. It was about turning on the lights. Because that is what consciousness does. It reveals what was hidden. And now that you see, you can no longer pretend you didn't see. The choice is before you. Repeat the cycles or break them. Be a mirror or be essence. Be silent or free yourself. God didn't create you to live on emotional crumbs. He didn't call you to prostrate yourself before human idols. He gave you identity, purpose, and power. And every time you choose to rise, even in fear, even in pieces, the whole heavens move in your favor. Now, it's up to you. If this content touched you in any way, comment below. Share it with someone who needs a wake-up call. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to continue receiving content that provokes, awakens, and transforms. Thank you for watching this video. We ask that you subscribe to our channel and like this video. Also, activate the notification bell to be notified of our posts. Until the next video.